Good afternoon and welcome to the public session of the Halton District School Board Audit Committee meeting for Tuesday, November 12th, 2034. I will call this meeting to order. I will ask please for a motion be it resolved that the agenda for the public session of the Audit Committee meeting for November 12th, 2024 be approved as distributed. Do I have a mover for that? Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Anyone online to second? Oh, I see a thumbs up. I don't have my glasses on. I can't see who it's from.
That's me. Sana here, Sana Malik.
Thank you very much, Sana. Any questions, concerns, or comments? Then I declare the agenda approved by consensus. Seeing no objections? Perfect. Thank you. Are there any declarations of possible conflict of interest? Okay, thank you. Seeing none, I will now move. I would require a movement to move into private session. Be it resolved that the Audit Committee rise from public session to private session. Could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Sana, and thank you, Patricia. Any questions, concerns, comments? Seeing no objections, I declare us moved into private session. The cameras will turn off and we will come back later and back into public. public session. Do I have a mover for that? Thank you, Robbie. Any questions, comments, concerns? Thank you and welcome back to the public session of the Halton District School Board Audit Committee meeting on Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. We have just come out of private session. The next agenda item is approval of business transacted in the Audit Committee private session. There was none, but I will take us back to item 1.2, the acknowledgement of the traditional lands, and I will turn it over to Trustee Bryden to bring us that acknowledgement, please.
Thank you. We begin by acknowledging the land and our responsibility to care for and respect all that provides us with life. This land upon which HDSB is situated is on the ancestral treaty and title lands of the Anishinaabeg Ojibwe Mississauga Nation, now known as the Mississaugas of the Credit. Mississauga territory in the past and present continues to host both Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. The HDSB is committed to continuous knowledge building with respect to actions that address and resolve the ongoing impacts of colonialism. We do this by learning and understanding the true history, treaty obligations, duties, and responsibilities in Indigenous rights, while actively maintaining mutually beneficial relationships and collectively respecting and caring for the land.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. We'll move into Section 4, Ratification and Action. Item 4.1, the minutes of the Audit Committee meeting for September 24th, 2024. The motion is be resolved that the minutes from the Public Session Audit Committee meeting held on September 24th, 2024 be approved as distributed. Do we have a mover? Thank you, Patricia. Do we have I believe Sonia has seconded. Is that okay with Sonia? Thank you. Are there any questions or concerns about these minutes? Seeing none, I declare them approved by consensus. Moving to 4.2, recommendation of the board, the 2023-2024 financial statements, the accumulated surplus balances, and I will turn it over to Superintendent Ngoi.
Thank you, and through the chair, the 2023-2024 financial statements and accumulated surpluses has been provided in the report with the accompanying note disclosures, as well as the auditor's annual report. And before I turn it over to our external auditor, I just wanted to make a couple of comments. The financial statements have received a clean audit opinion, and they represent in all material respects the financial information in accordance with the accounting note 1 in the financial statements. We do have a deficit position of $2.6 million as outlined in the report. And in the accumulated surplus appendix, which is a lower deficit than it was budgeted for. A few of the items that reflect this balance have to do with the significant increase in both revenues and expenses as it relates to centrally negotiated items for Bill 124 settlement, as well as to the new collective agreements for 2022 to 2026. And so basically there are 5 years of compensation increases that have been provided towards the end of the year and updated in both revenues and expenses throughout our financial statements. So that is a total of about $130 million. You will see that's the difference when you compare both to budget as well as to the prior year. There are a couple of things to mention. There has been some increase in terms of revenue, some additional interest revenue, as well as some savings in year as it relates to utilities and snow removal as a result of a more milder winter. There have been also increases in some of the balances, including the WSIB liability in particular. I just wanted to also mention that we are in a positive surplus position for education development charges as a result of delayed site purchases, but we do expect 3 site purchases to occur through the current year, and therefore we would expect to be in a deficit position at the end of this current year. I would want to just draw your attention to a few of the no disclosures. In particular, we have adopted 3 new standards. One of them has an impact on our financial statements and restatement of values, and that is the adoption of public-private partnerships of or P3s. There are a couple of other new no disclosures to mention, and that includes so note number 10 on public-private partnerships, note 18 and with regards to the Ministry of Labor, Immigration, training, skills development funding for asylum claimants, and I believe note 27, which describes the monetary resolution for Bill 124 and the impact on the fiscal year in terms of the breakdown of the proportion and how that number was determined. We have also a higher cash position, as you're going to notice, as a result of increase in cash due to payments received for short-term financing and capital projects, as well as the maturation of the GICs that have occurred through the year. And the other significant difference would be with regards to asset retirement obligations, which are being measured every year, and it reflects inflation adjustments. So in this particular case, it's an increase year over year as a result of an adjustment of 3.6 inflation, and we also have some remediation work, which would decrease that liability. However, the overall increase of inflation is significantly higher. And with that, this report that is in your package and is marked draft will go to the Board of Trustees on December the 3rd. The ministry forms will be, however, submitted in time. We have to submit them by November the 15th. So as a result of this recommendation from the Audit Committee, if there are no changes in terms of any recommended changes, we will be submitting the ministry forms, and then we will be bringing forward the financial statements to the Board of Trustees for approval on December the 3rd. And I would pass it on to our external auditor just to go through the report.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Superintendent Ngoy. Our report on the audit starts on page 50 of your package. Very pleased to be here to present the results of our audit. You'll recall to the committee that we had presented our annual audit plan back at the May meeting. Very happy to report that our audit was conducted substantially in line with our audit plan, which had been previously presented. As you will note in the executive summary of our results report, we reconfirmed the fact that we had identified and did apply focused audit testing on 7 audit risk areas. Of this list, there were 2 items that are unique and specific to this year, very much in line with what Superintendent Ngoy had already covered off as it relates to Bill 124 implications, as well as the adoption of new PSAS accounting standards in the current year. Both of these were areas that we paid particular attention to in the current year. Specifically as it relates to Bill 124, we performed a combination of tests of details as well as substantive analytical procedures to ensure that the agreed upon monetary resolutions have been appropriately applied and paid out to the employees or accrued for, depending on the timing of payment. And as it relates to the new PSAS accounting standards, as noted, the only one standard that had an implication on the financial statements was as it relates to the public-private partnership, which has been separately disclosed in the financial statements themselves. You'll recall back when we had presented our audit plan that we identified to you that our materiality would be determined based on 3% of expenses, which is exactly what we had done. We're reconfirming as part of our results report the final figures that were used. The concept of materiality helps us determine both the extent of audit testing as well as to evaluate any errors that we identify as part of the audit. And we're really pleased to report that there are no uncorrected misstatements. So that is a really important outcome to note. It is a testament to management and the effort that they have put towards and the focus they have on financial reporting. Also included in our audit results report today is, as we've noted, we've identified our outstanding items, which are also on the executive summary. There are just a few items that are outstanding at this point, all of them pending when the board finally approves the financial statements. So most of them are administrative in nature. At the time of mailing of the report, we did note that certain of our procedures as it relates to Bill 124 were still in progress. Those are all completed as of this point, and we confirm that we have no findings as it relates to those areas of testing. I won't go through in great detail any of the audit risk areas. As I've already mentioned, these are in line with what we had proposed as part of our audit plan, and we have no findings to report on any of these areas. And the rest of our report is fairly routine and covers off all of our reporting responsibilities to the committee, but happy to take any questions there may be.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll thank you both very much for your report and move on to the, that is an action item, never mind, I apologize. I will move on to the motion. Be it resolved that the Audit Committee recommends the audited financial statements of the Halton District School Board for the fiscal year ended August 31st, 2024 be approved by the Board of Trustees. Do I have a mover for that? Thank you. I believe that is Trustee Rocha has made the motion and Trustee Bryden has seconded. Any questions, comments, concerns? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Thank you, that carries. I will move us into Section 5, Communication to the Audit Committee, 5.1.1. There are a number of supplemental reportings, beginning with the Annual Statement of Education Development Charges, EDC report. Superintendent Nagoy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and through the chair, this is an annual report of education development charges that is required under the Education Act to be presented to the Board of Trustees. And it outlines the closing balance. This current year, it's 35.3 million surplus, as I mentioned in my previous comments, and it's as a result of delayed site purchases. We do expect to be in a deficit position of about 69 to 70 million once we make those 3 purchases, which are expected by August 2025. The details in terms of the current bylaw are here, with 5 years worth of residential and non-residential levies outlined in Table 1. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Thank you. Seeing none, I would ask you to move to the Summary of Trustee Expenses Report as of 2023-2024.
And thank you. And for the chair again, this is the annual report of trustee expenses in accordance with the Education Act, as well as with the trustee expense governance policy. We provide a report of the trustee expenses based on the various categories that are identified, as well on the website. By the end of December, we will be posting the individual trustee expenses for each trustee and student trustees. And in this report as well, we do identify in the attachment the current reserve balance in the trustee fund, which has decreased a little bit from last year, but it's still at around 122,000. And this is used by board motion, in particular to cover certain responsibilities, such as the Public Trustee Association related work and conferences and other professional development opportunities. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Trustee Bryden.
There's a sentence here: at the end of the term of the board, unused portions of the trustee expense budget shall be allocated to a reserve account for the purpose of future trustee professional development. The use of these reserve account funds will be decided by the incoming Board of Trustees by board motion. Does that mean that that fund is perpetually rolled over to be trustee expenses, or could it be reallocated under board motion?
Thank you for the question. So at the end of during the 4-year term, I should say, each trustee's individual balance will roll over. So there will always be a carryover balance in order to allow for certain expenses that are prepaid for the, potentially in the summer, but they don't occur until the fall. And then at the end of the 4-year term, whatever is left over does roll into this reserve, the board reserve account. So whatever that amount would be, that is what this accumulated number is, the 122,000. The Board of Trustees will determine what to do with those funds. So yes, by board motion, it can decide to allocate it towards additional PD or allocate it or reallocate it to something else, I would assume. It does have to, I would have to refer back to the trustee governance policy, which has a bit more detail in terms of the intended purpose for this money.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move into the summary of school-generated funds 2023-2024. And once again, Superintendent McGoy, please.
Thank you. And school general funds are consolidated into our financial statements. It is good to see them back up to pre-pandemic levels this year. So we're back to about 20 million. And these funds are maintained separately at the school level and consolidated at year end. As well, all the carry forward will continue to belong to the particular schools that have raised the funds. And the appendices provide the details by category for both elementary and secondary panels. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Trustee Bryden.
Just to clarify that we were at about 20 million pre-pandemic, and so we're at a similar nominal value, but not a similar inflation-adjusted value.
That's correct. It's buying power.
More statement than question, but thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you. Seeing none, and thanks for highlighting that. That is actually quite important to note. Appreciate that. We'll move into 5.1.2, Halton Student Transportation Services, 2023-2024 financial statements. And once again, Superintendent McGoy.
All right, I'm on the roll. So this is the audited financial statements for Halton Student Transportation Services, and they are proportionally consolidated into our financial statements. So for your information, we wanted to provide the audit report. If there is a clean opinion on the audit, we as a board, ourselves and the Catholic board are both members of this consortium, and we share in the expenses at about 2/3 for our board and 1/3 for the Catholic board. It is based on the ridership of the students on the school buses. Be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments around this item? Thank you. Seeing none, we'll move into the indirect tax audit. Superintendent McGoy.
So this is a report or a review that we conduct about every 4 years, just to ensure that we make use of all tax recoveries that we are allowed to. As you can see, this report does highlight that the team has been doing an excellent job in terms of rebates, and it identified only 1,500 or so in indirect tax recoveries. We did spend quite a bit of time with Deloitte, and I would want to thank the team. I know they're not here today, but I wanted to thank the team for spending time with us to talk about the election 211, which essentially looks at a school moving from being a not-for-profit organization to a for-profit, and therefore looking at earning some additional tax credits, if that's the case, on the capital expenditures, and whether the commercial use of a school would warrant us to elect Section 211. So we've looked at a particular school that was more recently constructed, that has a child care before and after, and rental of space in the gym and so forth. And although we meet the threshold, to make it of commercial use. We would be able to apply for this election and get a one-time tax credit of just over $80,000. We are pretty close to that 10% requirement, and if anything changes in terms of the use, the commercial use of this particular school, we would have to pay it back. The implication that this has, though, on our childcare providers is that they would now have to pay HST, and they are struggling even now with the current rent. So in paying 13% more on their rent, that would be something that we would have to consider, and we would have to consider whether we would be providing a relief. But if we do that, we very quickly eliminate the $80,000 tax credit. So at this point in time, we are considering to continue monitoring and reviewing, and if our percentage gets higher in terms of utilization for commercial use, we will be considering this election. But at this point in time, since we do have a before and after care program run by the board, and we are currently looking at potentially expanding, it's a little risky to make those to apply for those elections at this point, because the before and after space makes up a lot of that percentage for a particular elementary school. So we did quite a bit of work on that, and at this point in time, we are continuing to monitor that particular election, and we will revisit the indirect recovery, tax recovery in another 4 years, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, thank you for that report. Seeing no questions or comments, I'll move to 5.1.4, the Regional Internal Audit Status Report.
Thank you very much, and through the chair, I just have one update for the open meeting today, and that is a change to my team. Mohammed Alkan is no longer with the RIAT, and there's no plans to replace that position.
Thank you for that information. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, I will move us to 5.1.5, timelines for financial reporting presentation to the board, and back to Superintendent Nagoy.
Thank you, and for the chair, the updated links to any reports that pertain to the current fiscal year have been updated in terms of budget reports, as well as the interim quarterly financial reports for the prior year. We will continue to do that as we are now going to be starting the planning for budget for 2025, 2026. I can't believe I'm saying that already. We just finished the year end for the prior year. But we'll keep providing those dates and the links to the reports that go to the board and presentations to committee of the whole. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns? Thank you. Seeing none, that does bring us to the end of our agenda. As our agenda is exhausted, I do declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much for your time this afternoon. Very much appreciated.